All righty.
All right. All
Perfect.
right. So thank you, Wilhelmina, for that quick intro. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jorge Stepanmer, and I'm the director of the Statewide Training Initiative with Florida Legal Services. Today, we're excited to have you join us for expanding pro bono partnerships in Florida, connecting with civil legal aid. This is going to be like the first session of an ongoing series discussing pro bono initiatives throughout Florida. And before I introduce our speaker, I do want to go through some quick housekeeping announcements. This training is being recorded. You're going to receive a copy of this recording via Zoom. It's going to come out in an email within 24 hours. We will also be posting this training on YouTube. So I'm going to make sure that you have the links to our YouTube channel so you can access other trainings and this one. We will also be sharing a copy of the materials that I'll be using to present. That's going to be on a link that I'll drop into the chat, and it will also be included in the email. The training was approved by the Florida Bar for one general CLE, point 0.5 ethics CLE, and one civil trial certification CLE credit. I will announce the CLE code towards the end of the webinar. I will also drop it into the chat. It will also be on the email that I will send out, and I will also make sure to include it on the YouTube description as well. Closed captions are enabled for anybody who needs them. If you're having any issues with accessibility or understanding us, just let me know, and I'll make sure that I drop my email into the chat. You can reach out to me. And this specific webinar series is a kind of a partnership with the Public Interest Law section, or PILS, and the Real Property, Probate, and Trust Law section of the Florida Bar. I'm going to drop the links for both sections into the chat so you can familiarize yourself with them. And final piece of housekeeping announcements. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can either use the chat. You can also use the Q&A feature. If Aaron picks up the chat or I see that there's a question, we'll try to address it as it comes in. But if for whatever reason we miss it, we'll do our best to address those questions towards the end. And to make the best of time, I'm not gonna read Aaron's bio, but I did include his entire bio in the materials. You will be able to see it there. So without further ado, Aaron, I want to pass it over to you. Aaron is the director of the Pro Bono and Family Law Pro Bono initiative at Jacksonville Area Legal Aid, also known as JALA. So, Aaron, the floor is yours.
Jorge, thank you. And Wilhelmina, thank you as well as members of the Reptile and PILS committees for having me. And this being the first mini series on pro bono initiatives. So I guess no pressure on my part. So hopefully the screen is showing on your end. And we are talking about expanding pro bono partnerships throughout the state of Florida. And so hopefully you leave here with a little bit more knowledge on what legal aid organizations are and what they do, as well as learn how pro bono fits within the mold of legal aid. So first off, let's talk about what legal aid organizations are and what they do. So legal aid organizations such as JALA, Jacksonville Area Legal Aid, who I work for, were simply nonprofit law firms. In reality, most of us don't operate any different from any other law firms throughout the state. JALA ourselves, we've been around since 1937. We are right now the third largest civil law firm in Northeast Florida, roughly about 40 attorneys and an overall staff of about 80. We cover 17 counties in Region 2 of the state of Florida, and we have 4 offices, our headquarters, of course, being in Jacksonville. We have an office in St. Johns County, St. Augustine rather, Nassau County, which we recently opened, and then we have a Clay County office as well. With regard to legal aid programs, there are about 50 around the state. And you can find information from Florida Funding Legal Aid, this website here, about all of those throughout the state of Florida. And all of this is relevant because I think it's good to give a general overview of legal aid organizations and talk a little bit about how they're funded, just so you know the nuances to how legal aids function. And, you know, we're not all funded the same. Believe it or not, Florida is one of 3 states, I believe, that the state itself does not fund legal aid at all. We don't receive any government funds from the state of Florida. Now, there are two primary legal aid organizations. There are those that are LSC based and those that are non-LSC based. LSC stands for the Legal Services Corporation. It's the federal government's 501c3. It was established by Congress back in 1974. It's the largest funder of civil legal aid organizations throughout the nation. But like I said, not all legal aid organizations are LSC participants, such as JALA. My legal aid is not an LSC organization. And there's a reason for that. You know, LSC organizations, they receive funds from the federal government, but there are certain restrictions that come with those funds. And so that's why it's a benefit to Florida citizens that the regions in this state have an LSC and a non-LSC organization. These regions I talk about are reflected on this map. There are 7 of them. Of course, Jacksonville Area Legal Aid and our LSC counterpart, Three Rivers Legal Services. We are up here in the yellow area. And some of the restrictions, for example, that are placed on LSC organizations are that they cannot accept fee-generating cases, class actions, if you will, or in-house fee-generating cases. They can't do immigration. So the non-LSC organizations, such as JALA, are able to take those cases. So for all intents and purposes, the two organizations really complement one another. We work together for the greater good. We pass clients back and forth, or refer clients back and forth, rather. So we're not competitors. LSC organizations and non-LSC organizations really are sister organizations working for the better of their communities. Now, all of that is relevant because then we talk about an organization called Florida Funding Legal Aid, FFLA. It used to be called the Florida Bar Foundation. They did some rebranding last year, and now we call them FFLA. FFLA has to do with lawyer IOTA accounts. In Florida, we have trust accounts that law firms have. Those trust accounts earn interest each month. That interest is what helps fund legal aid organizations throughout the state of Florida. And FFLA serves as the conduit, the program responsible for distributing those funds to the various legal aids around the state. And that's based on, metrics and that sort of thing. And it also helps fund pro bono programs, such as my pro bono unit within Jacksonville Area Legal Aid and other organizations' pro bono units. So it's also important that we talk about why legal aid organizations exist in the first place. We are the public defenders, if you will, of the civil world, except you don't have an automatic right to a civil public defender, as you would in the criminal context. It's not guaranteed, it's not provided for or funded by the government per se, but that's just a comparison's sake when we talk about civil legal aid. The reasons that we exist is because there are a litany of local issues plaguing our community. And so legal aids step up in order to represent litigants based on certain substantive areas. We are a law firm. We can provide free lawyer representation in-house with our own in-house attorneys. Maybe we can't do that, but we can provide self-help tools and free education to members of the public, or even free advice and consultations, or sometimes referring individuals to a hotline. Those are just some of the services that a legal aid can offer. Again, that's based on community need. Not every legal organization has the same practice areas or serves the same sort of substantive interest in the community. We're fortunate in my legal aid organization to be quite large. Again, that's because of the city that we're in and the need that we have. But we have multiple in-house units. We have 10 units within our law firm that touch on housing issues, family law, consumer, and other vulnerable communities. These are the most common issues that we see in our community, and I would assume in most communities around the state. At JALA, we also have a health and public benefits unit, an immigration, a veterans, a Ryan White. We have a whole intake unit, as well as a probate and community development. But housing, family, consumer, and certain vulnerable communities such as seniors, those are the most common that we see in our area. There's such a large need for these that I pulled some figures just in our circuit up here, because I don't have those for the rest of the state. But just to put this into perspective, in 2024 alone, our legal aid received 14,696 applications for service. Of course, we can't touch all of those, but that's how many people sought out free legal assistance through our legal aid organization. In 2025, this year alone, we have almost hit 4,000. So I can't imagine the need, what it looks like throughout the rest of the state. Legal aids also exist because there is a return on investment. You know, Florida Tax Watch did a study, I believe back in the 2010 census, that showed for every dollar invested in legal aid, there's a 7-fold return. It's cost effective with solving problems early. You know, it promotes fairness and access to justice. And it benefits you all as attorneys because there is a professional obligation, as we know, to do pro bono work. And legal aid organizations provide that platform to you to do that work, which we will talk about here shortly. So obviously we have to start with what is pro bono for the public good. It's assisting a client who may otherwise lack access to proper representation and justice. Ordinarily, it's reserved for those who cannot afford that access to legal services. Of course, the American Bar Association has its own center, if you will, for pro bono. They not only provide technical assistance, research, planning advice to bar associations, to pro bono programs, to attorneys, judges, and law students, but they also host a very large conference each year for legal aid organizations to travel to and participate and learn more about how they can better help the public with the services that they offer. Of course, you are all aware of our aspirational duty to provide at least 20 hours of pro bono service annually or contribute $350. And I've listed the rules. I'm not going to go through them, but I listed the rules that you'd want to be cognizant of when doing pro bono work. All of these, of course, come into play when dealing with your clients, but they're also relevant to your pro bono clients. And recently, there's a new CLE rule that went into effect. It's 6-10.3 that attorneys may receive 1 general credit hour for every hour of pro bono service that they do, not to exceed 5 within that 3-year reporting cycle that you have. There's an affirmation that you have to fill out and you submit it to the bar. But that affirmation does not have to be verified by a legal aid organization at this time. So it's really an honor system. This is a great step in the right direction. So hopefully we will see attorneys utilizing this, and hopefully they will be coming to legal aid to do their pro bono work, or at least doing pro bono work in some capacity. This, of course, is a great segue to talk about what pro bono is not. Pro bono is not writing off bad debt. It's not doing a free consultation at your office unless, of course, it was for someone whose income was such that they otherwise could not afford your services. But back when I owned and operated my own law firm, I did free consultations for everybody. I could not simply just count all of that as pro bono, because chances are the majority of that clientele could afford attorney representation. Pro bono work is also not working for a government organization or even a legal aid and counting all of that work time as pro bono time. Example given, you're a public defender. You can't count your day-to-day job as pro bono simply because you are not paid by the client and you're providing that representation through your work. That's not to say that you can't do pro bono if you're a public defender. Usually it's pro bono work that you're doing outside your normal scope. Maybe it's a weekend clinic or something like that. So I just want to point out, especially that pro bono is not just writing off bad debt. So how does pro bono fit within legal aid organizations? At legal aid, a pro bono program, such as a pro bono unit through JALA, my legal aid organization, we are the volunteer arm, if you will, of the legal aid. We are the community outreach program of the law firm, the volunteer fire department, if you will, and we rely on pro bono attorneys to help staff that volunteer fire department. Because the mission at the end of the day is to provide free legal assistance in the community with the help of those volunteers and put out those fires. And so in my unit, and each legal aid may operate differently, we receive cases in multiple different ways. We have a large intake unit staffed by attorneys. They will pre-screen clients, and sometimes they float up to my staff to accept them within our pro bono unit. And they might float up to us for multiple reasons. Maybe it's because it's something we don't do in-house with our staff attorneys, or we don't have the bandwidth, the capacity to take all of these cases. And so they'll float up to me to try to place with private pro bono attorneys. Sometimes we receive intake directly from clients at outreach projects that we do, or even judiciary might reach out to me, or even other lawyers or community partners and bar associations. But as the volunteer arm, we exist not only to provide a platform for pro bono attorneys, but also for non-attorneys. We have plenty of paralegal volunteers, law students, high school students that enjoy working with our organization. And we provide that platform for them to do that pro bono work. But in order to do that pro bono work, you need to connect with a legal service provider, a legal aid, unless you have already done so. And there's various ways to do that, to connect with them. And on the screen, this is just a few of the legal aid service organizations around the state. It's not all of them. I would not be able to fit them on this slide. But if you're not otherwise connected with one of them, I would simply go to Google. I would talk to a colleague. You might be able to find information on your clerk of court website or your city, or you could visit Florida Funding Legal Aid, and it has a list as to the legal aid organizations around the state. It's important to connect with one. It's great for networking and relationship building. And I know I connected with mine way back in law school, and it became part of my general private practice before I transitioned to this role now at Legal Aid. I think it's important next to talk about, before we talk about how you can get involved, what are the barriers, at least that I see when it comes to attorneys not doing pro bono work. Whenever I'm asked this, jokingly, I say that the biggest hindrance to pro bono is frankly lawyers. But in reality, the biggest hindrance to pro bono is time. Lack of time due to family, other work commitments, other private commitments, work itself, just not feeling that you could fit pro bono within your practice. And I guarantee you that you can. Not everything we do in pro bono takes, an exorbitant amount of hours. We'll talk about how everything in pro bono can include things that are non-case related. It's not just accepting a case and litigating it. So there's multiple different ways that you can do pro bono and fit that within your practice. Another hindrance is knowledge. An attorney might not have knowledge in a particular field. They might not be familiar with litigating at all. Maybe it's a transactional attorney, so they have that fear about doing something that they're not comfortable with. Conflict. Like I said, the belief that pro bono is solely case related and that it's all litigation. And even if it is a court case, it does not mean that it's necessarily a litigated court case. And frankly, the difficulty, the belief again that it's complex litigation, that it's going to be drawn out. It's a combination of all of the above that I just went over. Or sometimes it's being burned because maybe you accepted that pro bono case one time because I sent you an email, made you feel bad, and you obligated yourself to take it. And I told you it's probably going to be an easy one, and it wasn't. So maybe that level of difficulty just kind of left a bad taste in your mouth. So at legal aid organizations, we know what the barriers are, but we always look to the solutions. We try to make it easy. We have opportunities for you. We list those opportunities on our websites. I, for one, have a pro bono website that's affixed to our General JALA website. On that pro bono website, you can find both cases awaiting placement with private attorneys, as well as all of our non-case related opportunities where you can volunteer. Those non-case related opportunities might just be one-off type clinics. They might be ask a lawyer, but there's multiple different ways in which you can sign up. And I even have online sign-up sheets to make it easy for you to get involved. We all try to make it accessible. The point of one of the points of a pro bono program through legal aid is that we are your point of contact. For cases, the clients are pre-screened, so you know that they truly qualify for legal assistance, pro bono legal assistance, and that the client's need fits within our mission. If you accept a case, we pair them with you. We serve as a go-between if necessary. Of course, these are your clients that you manage no different than a private client, but we are always a point of contact for you as well as for the client. At a lot of legal aid organizations, we will continue to monitor your cases just to ensure that you have connected with a client and vice versa. And if you have a need along the way, we will support you in that. We also try to make pro bono reasonable, within the scope of what you can provide based on your time commitments. We try to make it reasonable based on location and even offer remote and hybrid availability or opportunities for you to get involved. We will help you learn a new area of law if necessary in case you want to try something. Or if there is a case, but you don't think that you can dedicate time to representing the client from start to finish, but you can do something, we might be able to even offer a limited scope type of arrangement within a case. Because we are respectful of your commitments as well, but of course want to provide you with that platform to do pro bono work. An example would be, a case from start to finish you can't dedicate 9 months to, but you know that you can at least give that client a free consultation, or at least help that client with document preparation. And that's something that we could pair you with that client so that you could help them. The last solution, of course, a very important one, is that we want to support you. That's part of the platform. A lot of times at legal aid organizations, such as mine, the client signs a retainer. They are a client of our legal aid, but they understand in signing that retainer that they have a pro bono attorney that's rendering that service for them, just under the umbrella of our legal aid. And it also outlines the scope, no different than any other retainer agreement. A lot of private attorneys also have the pro bono client sign a separate retainer, but they are legal aid clients. You are also covered under our malpractice. That's a huge benefit to doing pro bono work. We will provide you with training, support, CLEs, access to Lexis or Westlaw if available through that legal aid organization. We might even pay costs if there are filing fees due that otherwise can't be waived. Then of course we might pay those on behalf of your client, or deposition fees. We will offer meeting space if necessary, interpreter services. We are fortunate enough to have a corporate Lyft account so that we can assist the client with travel if necessary. If you accept a case for estate planning, but you are a Miami attorney and the client's up here in Jacksonville, we will handle the signing component after you're done drafting. So we try to really make it easy for you to do pro bono and cover anything that we can along the way and support you in we also, last piece is that we also track your pro bono hours, and we report those. And a lot of organizations track those for multiple reasons, whether it be for grant reporting or also to acknowledge your pro bono work. One thing that's highlighted here is the expert resource. If you've taken on a case that you're coming to a roadblock and you don't know what to do, then we may pair you with an expert resource attorney to help you. I think it's important now to talk about the ways that you can get involved. Starting with case-related matters and where to find them, those cases that are awaiting placement. FFLA, Florida Funding Legal Aid, has partnered with a program called Paladin, which I'll show you here shortly. And Paladin is a host website where legal aid organizations post their cases that are awaiting placement with a pro bono attorney. And Jorge has added that into the chat. Florida Pro Bono Matters is kind of the umbrella that we call that particular link. And if this works properly. Perfect, okay. So this is the link to the Florida Pro Bono Matters website. And on this website here, it will list all of the cases awaiting placement in the state of Florida that legal aid service organizations have posted. And you can look at this no matter where you are in the state. And this is a great platform because you are able to go within it and search for cases that might fit your particular interest. So for example, and right now you can see the need of just cases posted throughout the state is 243. You could filter this just for criminal records and sealing. Maybe you want to look for finance type matters. You could even go into the other filters, into practice areas, which I just went over, remote work. You can look for remote work or in-person work or a combination of the two. You can filter it further by typing in the name of your local legal aid organization if you know it. And it will pull up all of those cases just within that one particular legal aid that are awaiting placement. So there are plenty of ways to find a case. I strongly encourage you to visit this website, to play around with it, to check it periodically if this is something that you would like to get involved with by taking a case itself. Like I said, there are 226 or so cases online just awaiting placement through all of the legal aids that post. That changes probably on the daily. And not all cases, like I said, are litigated matters. I would bet that probably the primary areas on that website would be housing, family law, eviction condition type issues, wills and advance directives. The need is so great that I pulled some reports from our database. And again, this is only in the Fourth Circuit up here in North Florida. And this is also just to put it into perspective as far as family law is concerned. In Duval County, it would take our legal aid having 68 permanent family law staff attorneys just to handle the family law caseload that comes in through Duval County. That just shows the need. Of course, we don't have 68 attorneys at all, let alone 68 family law attorneys. In 2024, we placed 510 cases with pro bono attorneys. Of those, 71 were wills, 126 were advance directives, 155 were landlord-tenant cases. We had 40 consumer and 51 family. In 2025, we've placed 276 cases so far this year. Again, those are mostly wills, advance directives, landlord-tenant, consumer and bankruptcy, and family law. This just shows the need that is out there for your involvement. Again, not every case on that website is a litigated matter. Wills, advance directives might be up there, and that's a non-litigation matter. And remember, that's just my area of the state. In fact, the family law demographics that I mentioned earlier, about 68 staff attorneys, is just Duval County. So I can't imagine what the need is overall throughout the state, but I'm sure it's extraordinary. Speaking of cases, there are attorney's fees that you can get in pro bono cases. So earlier, I mentioned that LSC legal aid organizations could not accept fee-generating cases. This slide has nothing to do with that. This is not fee-generating for legal aid. It's fee-generating for the pro bono attorney. If there's a contract that provides for attorney's fees, or if there's a statute, such as family law, that's statutory need and ability to pay. If you can argue that for your pro bono client and you are awarded attorney's fees, you can do that. And here's the case law providing for that. You just can't charge your client attorney's fees. A lot of people don't know that in pro bono cases, you can seek attorney's fees. Someone has posted, oh, and Samantha, thank you. Samantha is my counterpart at Three Rivers here in our area, the LSC organization. She corrected me on some novelties that have to do with fee-generating cases. But nonetheless, if you've taken a client pro bono, there's fees that you can get them. We just hope you remember us at the end of the day and want to give us a donation, but you're not required to do so. But I did want to point this out to you all. So I went over the case-related opportunities that you can find, but there are plenty of non-case related pro bono opportunities that many of you are probably interested in. They might be drafting clinics. A lot of the legal aids around the state offer drafting clinics. They might be one-stop shop clinics, I like to call them, where you will have a full day will and advance directive project at a location. It might be heirs property, seal and expunge, Three Rivers Legal Services, JALA, the Public Defender's Office and the State Attorney's Office up here. We are working on a project, a seal and expunge one-day clinic in June. That's a one-stop shop, if you will. There are family law form clinics where you will help individuals complete their family law forms. I know that Three Rivers has a family law form project that they need a lot of assistance with and could use some support from pro bono attorneys. We have Citizenship Day at our legal aid organization, which unfortunately we had to cancel last month, but we're hoping to have it in the fall. These are the one-off or a couple times a year type clinics that aren't case related per se, but where you can be involved and do pro bono work. We also have consultation type clinics. We have a weekly eviction and conditions clinic where pro bono attorneys are available to provide a consultation based on a housing issue that somebody might have. Most all legal aid organizations have Ask a Lawyer clinics, probably monthly, if not more, throughout the community, where attorneys will come and be available to provide free consultations. They are not obligated to take a case, but they are there to provide that face-to-face interaction and legal advice based on their areas of expertise to those present. There's also certified lawyers on call, which I know will be talked about more in future sessions, but that's another consultation-like opportunity that you can involve yourself in. There's also community education opportunities, Zoom or in-person informational sessions and speaking engagements on particular topics. Lawyers in the library, that's another example of how you can get involved in these non-case related pro bono projects. This next slide I wanted to bring up because it's relevant to doing pro bono work, and special thanks to Samantha at Three Rivers, the pro bono director there, for letting me steal this information from her. She taught a CLE about a year and a half ago at the Jacks Bar on cultural competency, and I find it extremely relevant, of course, to doing pro bono work. And that's because you're going to be working with diverse populations. You know, perhaps you are a transactional attorney and you have very little to no interaction with individual clients. You might work a non-traditional legal job and not have much experience at all with interviewing a client, let alone representing a client. And so we should all be aware that individuals have a cultural, ethnic, racial identity that shapes their understanding of the world, separate from our understanding of the world. This can include, you know, laws and norms from a client's home country, their religious background. And it is the ability to understand the within group differences that make each person unique, while celebrating the between group variations that make our country a tapestry, if you will. And so, like an iceberg, like this shows, We're only seeing a small fraction of one's culture, and we must be sensitive to clients, have an open mind. I was a family law litigator prior to coming to legal aid. And I always said that, having a good bedside manner truly matters in the law. And it is especially true for legal aid clientele, because there are a few mistakes that we can make when working with diverse clients, and I'm guilty of doing those. We have to be cognizant, about not interrupting individuals when you thought they were finished, not rushing them, viewing their given behavior or statements as evidence of a problem instead of having an open mind, using legalese too much, even expecting trust from a client when their background could explain why they don't automatically trust somebody. And of course, not being patient or respectful of someone's legal issue just because they're pro bono and not a paying client could be a common mistake. So these are just some things to be mindful of when working with any client, but especially working with pro bono clients. There's a huge impact that you all have with volunteering. Even if it's 15 minutes of doing pro bono work, that can have a lasting effect. Even if it's just doing one clinic a year, you've made a difference not only in your life, but in the lives of many. Because people are better off because of your role as attorneys, because of your role in pro bono. It can have a generational impact. It's also good for your mental health. It feels good to do good. And so these are just a couple of examples about the impact of volunteering. Attorneys, you're always highlighted in the news. Some organizations highlight pro bono attorneys in their local papers. Recently, and this is relevant to Reptile, at your annual conference that you had in February, there was a group that reached out to me that wanted to do a pro bono project one day, and I put one together. They said, Aaron, we want to do something. Here's the parameters, the time that we have. What can we do? And I put a project together where this group of attorneys on the left here drafted wills and advance directives and ladybird deeds for members of our senior community. And I believe within the span of, 3 hours, maybe about 20 individuals were helped. And of course, that has generational impact. I pulled some figures just up here through our legal aid. The in-kind legal services provided in 2024 was about 1.7 million. 2023, it was 1.4. So I can only imagine what it's going to be for this year because it grows each year. Florida bar statistics, there was 1.5 million hours donated that were reported donated with the bar year 2022 to 2023. They didn't have the figures for 23 to 24 yet. The impact of volunteering, like I said, is good for your mental health. It helps with your personal growth, networking and benefits. It's also good for your own business. There's recognition. Each year, there are the Supreme Court Pro Bono Service Awards in Tallahassee each January, where we honor local bar associations, judiciary, and an attorney from each circuit is nominated and picked to receive an accolade in front of the Supreme Court. And many of us have local ceremonies. Up here, we have our annual presentation of the pens, which takes place at the end of this month, where attorneys who contributed a certain number of hours of pro bono work are recognized with a special luncheon. They received their pro bono pin and letter from the Supreme Court. And we have a guest speaker, and all of the judges are there. And it's just a good way to recognize all of the good work and the impact that you do for our community. So the next slide, and I believe we have time, I'll cut it short if necessary because it's about 7 minutes long, but it's called the One Promise campaign, and I really think the video speaks for itself, so I'm just going to let that play.
Nine to 5 doesn't mean much to a great lawyer. Great lawyers understand that what makes time precious is what we can do with it.
If you are committed to making sure that there is justice for all in this state, then you can find the time.
I would never even understand why somebody who's in a position to be a lawyer wouldn't be able to find the time to help people.
Everyone has time to do pro bono work because it's about what's important to you.
One client, one lawyer, one promise. The One Promise campaign.
Primary, fundamental, basic. You have to help people.
The whole system doesn't work if you can't have access to it. If just the wealthy have access to it, it's not working. If the middle class struggle to have access to it, which is the case right now, it's not working.
We don't want an equal justice to all to be a slogan. We want it to be a reality. And the only way it can be a reality is that if all of us contribute to making sure that people have access to our courtrooms, that they have access to justice. To me, it is as simple as that.
I know we're busy people, but that's why they need you. They need you because you're practicing it. You're good at it. You do it every day.
To know that your education and your profession makes the difference between someone going to sleep at night in a safe location or someone living a life of constant fear is the very best part of what you do. There is no greater feeling.
From the very get-go, becoming a lawyer is different than some other professions. And I think that anybody who becomes a lawyer has that obligation as part of the very fabric of the profession that we're joining.
We should not reject for personal reasons any cause of any oppressed or defenseless person. And so that's not just a good idea. That's actually something we take an oath to do as lawyers.
Just because you're a lawyer and now you have a fancy license to practice law, you have a responsibility to that profession. They've given you the privilege, but you have sworn that you're going to live up to that responsibility.
The reward is so warm and so real and so is, as I sometimes say, but it's also indescribable. You almost have to experience it to know what somebody is talking about when they see the joy on a person's face when they've done something in order to relieve what for them was an enormous problem.
It's going to make you a better lawyer. You're going to be more well-rounded. You're going to feel better about your profession when you're engaged in this type of work. And it actually can make you a more viable lawyer and a better lawyer, even in your non-pro bono practice.
This is public service at its finest. And I think when you see that upfront and personal, you become a better lawyer. You understand people better.
You know, it's interesting. Lawyers feel the practice becomes wider and wider when you get cases for paying clients, I've noticed. But narrower and narrower when it becomes pro bono.
I think what a lot of lawyers forget is that in law school, we took intellectual property, we took family law, we took constitutional law, criminal law, all these different things. The bar is what, 6 or 7 different subjects. So we have it. We just kind of narrowed that role that we are as lawyers once we became lawyers. But we did it in law school, so why can't you do it as a lawyer?
The volume of cases that staff attorneys at legal aid organizations handle is remarkable, and they love to pass on that knowledge to pro bonos. Pro bonos are hand in hand with the staff attorneys at a legal aid organization. And that means that an attorney is never going to be alone when they take a case.
As a lawyer, I'm a problem solver. And the more problems I can solve, the better of a lawyer I am. Every problem is different, and every problem takes a different solution. So the more you accumulate solutions over the years, the more you're better able to help people.
If you're really comfortable with the US being 36th in the world in terms of its civil justice system, well, okay, don't do anything about it. But if on the macro level, if you want to do something about it, try one case. That's probably the most meaningful thing that you can do yourself to move that needle just a little bit, maybe move us up the ladder a bit.
Our whole system is based on, you have one client who has a need, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm going to represent that client to the best of my ability. And so, yeah, just taking one case, just taking one pro bono case, or just always having at least one pro bono case on your docket as a lawyer can make a huge difference, not only to the person that you're representing, but if all lawyers would do that, it would make a difference in the aggregate as well.
Just take one and you'll find that piece. You'll even be better at the work you do every other day that may not have anything to do with that one case, that one pro bono case that you took. But you'll find yourself in a place where you're empowered again and you're gassed up again because you realize the power of being a lawyer. You realize the power of that education and how it can impact the average person.
Pro bono publico, our duty to help those that can't help themselves, never expecting money or compensation, doing it for free and doing it to the best of our ability.
Create one relationship. I'll put it that way. It's the same thing, but it's a different mindset. Find a relationship to create. Arising out of calling somebody and saying, look, I want to do my pro bono. Send me, not a case, somebody.
I really enjoy that video every time that I see it, which is why I wanted to share it with you all, and hopefully it lights a fire under each of you as well as your colleagues. You know, all of this means that we rely on you, lawyers, to help serve our communities, and it's really easy to do. At the very least, if you're not ready to take on a pro bono project, whether that be a case or a non-case opportunity, I would just ask that you at least reach out to your local legal aid organization just to connect, just so you know where each other are, have each other's contact information, so that when you're ready, you know who you go to. And like I tell attorneys when I connect with them and start, you know, asking if they want to participate, I always tell them that you can tell me no and it won't hurt my feelings, because I know it might not be, that the time might not be right for you to take on a project or participate, but at least I've connected with you. And so I would just ask that if you're not already connected with a legal aid organization, to please do so. And so to conclude this, you know, I taught a CLE last year on powers of attorney, and the title of that was with great power comes great responsibility. I think that that's applicable here for all of our licensures as attorneys. And so the available resources, again, here are all the websites that I went over today, or most of them. And you're always welcome to reach out to me. Here's my contact information if you have questions, and I can put you in touch with a legal aid organization in your local area. So thank you all again. And if there are questions, I'm happy to go through them. I appreciate you all participating today.
Great presentation, Aaron. We do have a great question that's kind of on point. If I could have written a question, this would have been it. And this is a great example of how we can connect. So the question is, can your legal aid organization work with our law school and law student organizations down in Miami for a drafting clinic, or would we have to reach out to your local legal aid?
Great question. I know my legal aid, I work with law schools, believe it or not, around the country. It's more common for them to be our local law school. But now, since the advent of COVID and things being more readily available as far as remote things, I know I'm happy to work with any law school. A couple weeks ago, I hosted students from Brooklyn School of Law, and we might be hosting students from Harvard. So I would imagine that any legal aid would be willing to work with students, no matter where they are.
And I wanted to use as an example, Aaron mentioned the FFLA website earlier, and I'll drop the link here again. If you look at that legal aid directory and you type in date as an example, you're going to find at least 8 organizations that you could probably reach out to with a description of the type of work that we do. I can offer my name and email anytime in the future that you ever want to be connected with a legal aid. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll probably loop in Aaron and a lot of other people. We have a great network. I think Aaron hit the nail on the head earlier when he said we are really a community. We're like sister organizations. We're not competitors. We work together all the time. So if you're ever in the need to connect, we can definitely make sure that you're connected with the right people, with the right legal aids.
Absolutely. And I just want to add one more thing, Jorge. Don't just connect with one legal aid organization. We don't have a monopoly on you. I have pro bono attorneys that work with mine as well as our sister organization. The same with students, reach out to multiple legal aids. If you're working one project with me, it doesn't, it's not a hindrance to you doing one with another one. There's plenty of work to be done. So connect with all the legal aids that you can.
So I know we're almost at time. I did drop the CLE code into the chat just in case. I'm going to read it out loud. It's 2501777N. I also dropped the link to the materials. I started rerunning Google document with some of the resources that Aaron was mentioning. So you will find a lot of the hyperlinks that are also included in his presentation. I have to do a quick plug because this is the first session of an ongoing webinar series that we will continue to grow. The next webinar for this series is going to happen May 9th. I'm going to include the link to register and the follow-up email that will go to everybody that registered for this webinar. So feel free to register. If for whatever reason you forget to register for one of these webinars, we will typically post those on YouTube as well. That link to the YouTube channel will be included in there, where you can also find that with great power comes great responsibility. You will find that webinar in there as well. And since we have a lot of the people from Reptile here, I do have to do a quick plug for an amazing webinar that we have coming up Friday. And the webinar is part of a consumer disaster series. And Friday's webinar is going to focus on landlord-tenant issues after a disaster. We already had a home ownership and mortgage foreclosure version of it. Is also uploaded to our YouTube page. And this is particularly interesting because we have a legislative session with a lot of bills that could impact a lot of the clients that we serve. So feel free to register for those upcoming webinars. Check out our YouTube site. A future project that I'm hoping to put together to complement the FFLA directory is actually having contact people for all the pro bono departments across every single legal aid in the state. And you will notice when you go to these legal aid websites, most of them will have a section where you can find volunteer opportunities, who to connect with. And if for whatever reason you can't find, feel free to reach out to me or Aaron or both of us, and we'll make sure that we connect you with the right person. So I know we're 1 minute past our time. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us here today. Aaron, amazing presentation as always. Thank you for being a great resource. I wanted to thank the reptiles section for also inviting us to collaborate with you. So everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Jorge. Thanks, everyone.